Welcome back. All right, so I've seen a lot of comments on the channel over the last few days. Well, we've been talking about the NHL and how expansion might work, comparing them to the other major leagues. And hey, the other major leagues in North America, 32 teams is the max. That's it. No. So we'll start with the NFL. The NFL's at the top of the board, $18.6 billion. 45 of the 50 most watched events in the U.S. were NFL games. My guess is in Canada, that number's pretty high too. The NFL's huge in Canada. So $18.6 billion was their income in 2022. I would imagine that'll expand again in 2023. A lot of money. This is a league that hasn't expanded in over 20 years. Houston was the last team that was added in 2002, and they got creative and called themselves the Texans. Because, sure, it's like they got asked on the phone, quick, a name. But Texans. I didn't. Oh, crap, Texans. Do I really say Can I? He's already hung up. We're the Texans. So there's rumors and word that they're creating an international division. They've had games in Europe. There's very clearly a lot of interest in Europe. They would like to create an international division. Where it works for the NFL and would not work in the National Hockey League is you have a week between games. You can easily schedule it so that a team might fly over to London, have a game in, say, Paris or Berlin over the next couple of weeks, and then fly home. You give them a bye week, that kind of thing, right? So I think it can work. And the idea is they're going to create an international division. Well, a division in football is 4 teams. So that would take them to 36 teams because they're currently at 32. So the NFL is very likely over the next... the one article I was reading said 2 to 5 years it could happen. So the NFL, lots of money. What they like even more is more money. So we're making lots of more money. How can we make lots of more money? And the NFL's figuring out a way to make that work. Now, Major League Baseball, $10.32 billion was their income in 2022. They have 30 teams, but there's a lot of discussion about expansion with Major League Baseball as well. Charlotte gets a lot of talk. Nashville, there's been some discussion about whether or not the Chicago White Sox, who've lost over $100 million over the last few years, if Jerry Reinsdorf might sell the team and move them to Nashville. He has, to his credit, denied it to this point. But you have to ask yourself, Reindorf's in his 80s. When he's no longer owner of the team, do things change? This is a team that's lost a ton of money in Chicago. So do you look at Nashville? Portland, Montreal also listed as frontrunners. I, being a big fan of the Montreal Expos, yes, please bring back the Montreal Expos and save me from having 162 Jays games and not much other option in Canada. So those are your frontrunners. And there's an argument to be made for any of those 4. The last expansion by Major League Baseball was in 1998 when they brought in the Devil Rays and the Diamondbacks. And, of course, now it's just the Tampa Bay Rays. You got to get the devil out of there. So Major League Baseball makes $10.32 billion. But I want to talk about baseball and come back to it after we've gone through this chart here. The NBA, $10 billion in the 2021-2022 season. 30 teams, but they're looking at expansion as well. It's going to be a lot of money. Their expansion fee is likely more than $1.5 billion. So when I hear people saying, well, why would somebody pay $1 billion? They just do. And so the plan is that they're going to get into the expansion mode officially after they've finalized a new media rights deal, and that is expiring in 2024, 2025. And there's been no shortage of speculation as to where the NBA can go. Again, it's a league of 30 teams. Their last expansion was Charlotte in 2004. And I would not be surprised to see them add 2 teams, get to 32 or more. Because the NBA is a league that's just growing in its revenues. So the NHL, $5.93 billion in 21-22. Last season, that went up. There's talk of it being above $6 billion last year. And they're at 32 teams. They're in not right now mode when it comes to expansion. And, of course, they added Vegas in 2017, Seattle in 2021, thus the Seattle garb. And so there's going to be some time. But in between now and when the NHL is likely to get into expansion mode again, we will probably see something happen with the NFL. I would think with Major League Baseball, something's got to take place there as well. And again, I have something else to talk about with Major League Baseball because it's fascinating to me. Major League Soccer, so MLS, $1.479 billion in 2022. But there are a lot of people who will say Major League Soccer is past the NHL. Okay, they've passed the NHL in terms of being able to market. They do not have NHL level revenues. And I don't know if a pro soccer league will ever have the kind of revenues we see with the NHL. Maybe it does. They're currently at 28 teams. St. Louis makes it 29. San Diego's coming in 2025. One thing with Major League Soccer, and I've talked about them before, the really rapid expansion of the league has not been widely received as being necessarily the smartest move. So Major League Soccer has grown, has exploded in terms of the number of teams in the league, but is there enough money coming in to justify all of this expansion? I think that's a worthy discussion to have, but St. Louis, San Diego, and the rumor is they're going to expand to 32 teams at some point soon. So Major League Soccer, which is making, a third of what the NHL is making, less than that, are looking at a 32-team league as well, right? And they've got teams in Canada, they've got teams in the U.S., and so Major League Soccer is growing, but I do wonder, can they support every single team? Can they support the whole thing? Now, the NHL, in terms of its TV deal, they've got the $225 million deal with Turner, which is TNT. They've got the $400 million deal with ESPN, right, which is, of course, Hulu as well. And those deals run through 2028. So we are still 5 years away from those deals running out, because that's a comment I see a lot, like, well, those TV deals are going to fall apart. We're 5 years away from that deal expiring. The one in Canada is interesting because Rogers, there's been rumors the whole way through, Rogers hasn't been happy with the income on the deal they've made in Canada. $5.2 billion being paid over 12 years. And it started out as around $300 million the first year, and in the last year, which is 2025, 2026, it's over $500 million they are paying for NHL games. And so that deal may very well be as pricey as it gets. Now, next time out, TSN hopefully will be... I don't want them to get the bid, but I'd like to see something in Canada like you have in the US, where maybe it's split. Maybe there's an A package and a B package between Sportsnet and TSN. But I don't see a way that the NHL necessarily generates the amount of revenues they're currently generating, unless they throw in something else for whoever gets the A package. But it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. And so that's one deal to keep an eye on. But again, that's 2026. We're at 2023. There's 3 years for things to change. There is the regional uncertainty. Of course, the Bally experiment seems to be still a thing, but some teams aren't on it anymore. Vegas is broadcasting their own games. I understand there's been some glitchiness with all of that, but that's to be expected when something's starting up like that. There is some uncertainty with the regional markets, but in terms of money, the amount of money that they would lose if those regional deals aren't where they're at, it's not insignificant, but it's money they can make up in advertising and sponsorship revenues, which are at an all-time high. So looking at the leagues and the health of the leagues, and this is something that gets talked about a lot as well, there are no NFL teams losing money. Every single team of those 32 making money. And you look at the contracts they're handing out to football players. Are they ridiculous? Yes. Do football players deserve it? Also, yes. It is an extremely dangerous sport. It is very easy to go out there and to get injured and you're done. And it's not always guaranteed money either. So I have no complaints about what NFL players make. The Nets are the only team in the NBA listed as having operated at a loss. So the NBA is very healthy as well. 30 teams and 29 of them making money. That's pretty good. Then you get into baseball. And this is where it's interesting to me, because this is where, without a salary cap, without any kind of control on expenses, this is part of the reason the White Sox have lost $100 million. Their cost for their roster has gone through the roof. So their revenues haven't gone up, but their roster has gone from, I think it was $70 million to being $200 million over a few years. That's going to cost you a lot of money. And so while Jerry Reinsdorf might have the money to cover that, and he might be happy with that, eventually there won't be money to cover that. But then, because it's baseball, you just sell everybody. And it's something that drives me nuts with baseball. So according to the list I found, the Mets, the Phillies, the Blue Jays, the White Sox, Padres, Rockies, Tigers, Twins, Reds, and Marlins are all operating at a loss. That's about a third of the league. So we hear about the NHL and, Florida lost money, Carolina, Arizona lost money. These teams should be gone. Baseball, looking at expansion and having a bunch of cities looking at coming in and expansion. And apparently they have this many teams losing money. One thing to keep in mind, creative bookkeeping. So one thing that you have to keep in mind when you're looking at baseball is the union and the owners don't really necessarily like each other. They also do not have revenue sharing of the same nature that other leagues do, and they don't have a salary cap like other leagues do. And so I sometimes look at which teams are losing money and think, but are they? Like, how much can we trust these revenues? And I feel the same way with the NHL. The NHL, back when we had a lockout in 2012, while we had the salary cap, the argument was made that, hey, this 57% going to the players, this is too much. We got teams still operating at a loss. Only 9 teams made, I think the report was there was 9 teams that were making money in the 2011-2012 season. All right, so they dial it back to 50%, but you look at how much money the players are making now and compare it to 2012, and you got to think, so the NHL's making money everywhere except a few locations, or were they fudging the numbers back then in order to get the union to play their game and bring the split down from 57-43 to 50-50? Now, I think the NHL's revenue forecasts are going to be pretty good. They've got a lot of gambling money coming in. Now, of course, that's raised a lot of questions too. I did find an article which stated that Nevada sportsbooks lost $6.6 million when Vegas won the Cup. Because I've seen, well, of course, Vegas wins the Cup because that's everybody makes money. Not the bookies, no. The actual websites with all the gambling on it lost money when Vegas won the championship, so that ain't it. And it's not really how that works. If everybody bets on the same team and it all pays out, I hate to tell them what the payout is if you all bet on the exact same team. You're not going to make a lot of money. But it is interesting because I don't think the NHL is in any financial position to threaten the top 3. But I also don't feel like the NHL is in any position to worry about falling out of 4th. Major League Soccer, absolutely, Lionel Messi, that's great, that's fine, that's fantastic. But MLS, there are still those who follow soccer/football who don't think it's a great league and don't think it's a great product. And so the league keeps expanding, and we'll see whether or not that ends up being the smart move. It is just interesting that people will praise MLS, and then some of those same people would say, yeah, but the NHL can't expand. They're not making enough money to expand. When I don't know that MLS is making enough money to expand either. But there is this built-in hate people have for anything associated with Gary Bettman. There's this built-in distrust that some fans have for anything that the National Hockey League is deciding to do. So if the NHL says, you know what, we might be considering expansion soon, there will be that very, very vocal portion of NHL fans will say, no, 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 no. But if you compare it to the other sports leagues in North America, all of them are going to expand. So the 32-team threshold that we currently have, where nobody's over 32 teams, the NFL, it's not really a matter of if, it's a matter of when they break it. There's more money to be made, you expand. And it really does feel like with sports, it's a business, right? Businesses add more franchises. It's just what they do. And if you can make more money, if you find a market where you feel like, hey, we can make another $100 million on this location, you're going to want to have a franchise in that location. There's always the argument about, well, then, it's going to be tougher and tougher to win championship. Yep. It is tougher to win a championship. Teams that I cheer for in the NFL, they don't win championships. They're the Chargers and the Bengals. They're not winning squat this year. Major League Baseball, Padres, they're not winning anything. Sorry. At the very least, if the NHL ever goes to San Diego, I guess I have another team to cheer for. Because for some reason, I just have an affinity for San Diego franchises dating back to when I was a little kid. And then in the NBA, I kind of thought, I still cheer for the Grizzlies based on when they were in Vancouver. And I've got a soft spot for the Timberwolves. But, yeah. Anyways, there you go. My misery doesn't just extend into hockey. It is through all sports. All sports. Any franchise that I choose is usually cursed, it would seem. But there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. I think that the financial picture that we have from these leagues, you have to take with a grain of salt. I think that when you're dealing with billionaires and all the accountants and everything that goes on with that, they can make it look like they're losing money or make it look like they're making money. And so it really is part and parcel to how things work with sports. So when I see all these teams losing money in baseball, do I doubt they're losing money? Not necessarily, not with salaries being where they are, but things can change very, very quickly in baseball. A team that loses $50 million this year might sell off all their high-priced talent and make a lot of money the following year. An example in Major League Baseball would be the Oakland A's. They're not paying anybody, so they're making a profit just before they move to Las Vegas. It's odd. But anyways, there you go. Let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.